Can't you people wait? The voice cut through the lobby of Hearthstone Capital like a blade. Pamela Ashton froze mid-step, her cleaning cart rattling on marble floors that gleamed like mirrors. The lobby was a glass cathedral, crystal chandeliers, gold fixtures, the company logo glowing on the wall like a halo. Investors filled the space in designer suits. Cameras hovered. Everyone dressed for money. Pamela wore navy polyester and a badge that read Facilities, Night Shift. Bob Dylan stepped into her path. Silver hair perfect, expensive watch catching the light. The billionaire who built Hearthstone into a Wall Street miracle. The man who destroyed her father. He looked her up and down, then smiled at the crowd. You know what's funny? This building is full of people who think they belong here. Nervous laughter rippled through the lobby. Pamela's grip tightened on her cart. She could disappear, should disappear, but her father's voice echoed. Power leaves fingerprints. She lifted her chin. I'll buy the company. Silence dropped like a curtain. Then Bob Dylan laughed so hard he had to brace himself against a column. Sweetheart, you can't even buy the carpet you're standing on. Phones lifted. Someone whispered, "This is going viral." Bob pulled out a business card, flicked it toward her feet like a tip. Call me when you're done cleaning toilets. The crowd laughed. Cameras rolled. Pamela's hand moved to the sealed envelope inside her pocket. Legal paper. Attorney letterhead. Her father's legacy. The truth Bob didn't know existed. She looked him in the eye. Call your board chair. Right now. Bob's smile cracked. Have you ever watched someone laugh at their own downfall, seconds before it happens? Security stepped closer. Pamela didn't move. But how did a janitor end up holding the power to buy a billion-dollar company? The answer started 6 months ago, in a shoebox under her bed. 6 months earlier, Chicago felt colder than usual. Pamela's apartment on the south side had thin walls and radiators that clanged all night. She'd just finished her shift at a downtown office building, 3 a.m. to 7 a.m., mopping floors executives never noticed. Community college classes started at noon. Her younger brother's tuition was due Friday. She was exhausted, but exhaustion didn't pay bills. Under her bed sat a battered shoebox. Inside, 3 things that mattered. A photo of Leon Ashton, her father, in work gloves, smiling like the world never broke him. A sealed letter with a law firm stamp. A glossy brochure for Hearthstone Capital. Bob Dylan's face on the cover like a brand. Leon wasn't just some guy. He was a facilities engineer with a mind for systems, HVAC, building automation, energy optimization. Years ago, he worked contract jobs for Hearthstone's early offices. He spotted a flaw in their infrastructure that would have cost millions long-term. Proposed a fix that saved them everything. They took his plan, not his name. When Leon pushed for credit and fair compensation, they pushed him out, blacklisted him, labeled him difficult. He died of a stroke before he saw justice. Pamela's grief wasn't loud. It was structured. She took the janitor job at Hearthstone for one reason: access. She listened, watched, learned patterns. Vendors paid twice for the same work. Bonuses tied to impossible metrics. Executives who preached integrity but signed off on lies. One night, she finally opened the sealed letter. Attorney Margot Haynes. Firm letterhead. Words that made her hands shake. Trust, voting rights, governance event trigger. Pamela read it twice, then checked the news. Hearthstone was announcing a major investor showcase next week. Pamela's night shift started at 11 p.m. The executive floor was always empty by then. Glass offices glowing with screensavers, conference rooms still warm from late calls. She pushed her cart slowly, listening. Executives talked like janitors didn't have ears. She heard names, vendor codes, complaints about moving numbers around before the audit. One night, a shredder ran past midnight. Pamela found the bin half full, torn fragments of a memo referencing a special purpose entity tied to vendor payments. She didn't understand all of it, but she recognized the smell of a lie. 2 weeks later, a woman approached her in the stairwell. Mid-30s, exhausted eyes, accounts payable badge. Her hands shook as she passed Pamela a USB drive. Backups, she whispered. Invoice duplicates. Shell consultants. I can't say anything. They'll destroy me. Pamela took it. I'll protect you. The woman disappeared down the stairs. That weekend, Pamela met Margot Haynes at a coffee shop on the south side. The attorney was older, sharp-eyed, black, with silver streaks in her locks. She confirmed everything. Leon had quietly bought Hearthstone shares for years, retirement accounts, worker investment programs, placed them in a trust. Pamela was the beneficiary. A partner fund stood ready to consolidate votes. Once the trust activated, Pamela would control the deciding block. Margot's phone buzzed. She read the screen, then looked up. Internal memo just leaked. Bob's hosting an investor tour and board showcase tomorrow. Pamela's heart stopped. Tomorrow. If you're hooked on Pamela's story, hit that subscribe button and like this video, because what happens next will blow your mind. Bob has no idea what's coming. The lobby of Hearthstone Capital looked like a premiere. Bright lights, formal suits, phone cameras already positioned for the show. Bob Dylan stood center stage, silver hair perfect under the chandeliers, performing company culture for investors like a king addressing his court. Pamela received her instructions at 10:45 a.m. Clean discreetly, stay out of sight, make the building look perfect. She entered the lobby at 11:02. Card in front, mop in one hand, sealed envelope tucked inside her uniform pocket. Bob's entourage noticed her first. Executives in $1,000 suits, security with earpieces. Someone muttered just loud enough. Timing's perfect. Really adds to the atmosphere. Laughter rippled. Cruel and quiet. Bob turned. Saw her. His smile widened like he'd been handed a gift. Can't you people wait? Heads turned. Phones shifted. Pamela stopped. I'll be out of the way in 2 seconds. Bob stepped closer, voice carrying across marble. You know what's funny? This building is full of people who think they belong here. The crowd laughed nervously. Pamela's grip tightened on her cart. She could disappear. Should disappear. But her father's voice echoed. Power leaves fingerprints. She lifted her chin. I'll buy the company. Silence dropped. Then Bob Dylan laughed so hard he bent forward. Sweetheart, you can't even buy the carpet you're standing on. He pulled out a business card, flicked it toward her feet like a tip. Call me when you're done cleaning toilets. Some people laughed. Some filmed. Some looked away. Bob turned to security. Remove her. Pamela didn't move. She looked Bob in the eye and said one sentence. Call your board chair. Right now. Bob's smile cracked. Upstairs, the executive elevator dinged open. The elevator door slid apart. Evelyn Ross stepped out first. Board chair. Late 60s, black woman in a charcoal suit, gray hair pulled into a tight bun. Behind her, legal counsel carrying a leather briefcase, and 2 board directors in matching expressions of controlled gravity. They weren't smiling. The lobby felt it immediately. The laughter died mid-breath. Phones stayed raised, but the energy shifted. Something serious was happening. Evelyn's heels clicked across marble. She didn't look at Bob. She looked at Pamela. Ms. Ashton. 2 words. Respectful. Deliberate. The air left the room. Bob's confidence stuttered. Who is she? Counsel stepped forward, opened the briefcase, and held up a sealed document packet. Voting trust activation, he said clearly. Beneficiary confirmation. Proxy transfer authorization. Investors stopped smiling. Phones kept recording, but it wasn't comedy anymore. It was history. Evelyn's voice cut through the silence like a judge delivering verdict. As of this morning, Pamela Ashton holds the deciding vote of Hearthstone Capital. Bob blinked, then forced a laugh, thin, desperate. This is a stunt. She's a janitor. Evelyn didn't blink. And you're an employee. The room froze. Bob's face went white. You can't. She can. Pamela stayed perfectly still. Let the truth land. Let it settle into every corner of the lobby, into every phone recording, into every investor's sudden recalculation. Then she reached into her envelope, pulled out a second folder. Thicker, heavier. Evidence. Counsel's eyes widened as Pamela handed it over. Bob's hand trembled around his business card. Did you see that power shift? Drop a comment below. Do you think Bob deserves what's coming, or is Pamela going too far? Let me know your thoughts. Counsel opened the folder. His eyes moved quickly at first, scanning invoices, routing instructions, shell consultant agreements, internal emails flagged by the whistleblower. Then slower. His face changed. Evelyn leaned in, reading over his shoulder. Her jaw tightened as the pieces locked together. Vendor overbilling, duplicate payments, fake tech upgrades, routed through companies that barely existed, money circling back to Bob's inner circle. Bob's voice turned sharp. That's stolen property. She has no right. She has every right, Evelyn said coldly. Bob stepped toward Pamela, finger pointing, voice rising into desperation. You don't know what you're doing. You're a child playing with things you don't understand. I built this company. Me. Pamela finally spoke. Quiet. Steel beneath every word. You built it on my father's work. And you crushed him when he asked for what was fair. Bob's face twisted. He tried charm next. Softer voice, open hands. Pamela, we can talk about this. Privately. I'm sure we can reach an arrangement. No. Evelyn cut him off. Bob Dylan, you are placed on administrative leave effective immediately, pending a full investigation and forensic audit. Bob exploded. You can't do that. Evelyn's voice didn't rise. Didn't need to. She can. Security shifted. Not toward Pamela anymore. Toward Bob. Investors stepped back. Phones zoomed in. The lobby had become a courtroom without a judge. Counsel closed the folder slowly. Looked at Evelyn. Then said quietly, loud enough for the phones to catch. We have to notify authorities. Bob's entire empire is crumbling in real time. What would you do in Pamela's position? Comment below. Bob made one last move. She stole those documents. His voice echoed off marble. She's a janitor who doesn't understand business. This is corporate espionage. Evelyn didn't even look at him. The documents were provided by an internal source exercising their legal right to report fraud. The audit stands. All suspect vendor payments are frozen effective immediately. Bob's face went red. You're making a mistake. Security, Evelyn said calmly. Please escort Mr. Dillon from the premises. 2 guards stepped forward. Professional. Firm. Bob tried to pull away. I don't need an escort. I'm leaving. But he didn't leave with dignity. He left arguing, pointing, voice rising with every step toward the glass doors. The crowd that had laughed minutes ago now stood silent. A few whispered, nervous, guilty. I didn't know. This is insane. Outside, a reporter caught the moment Bob pushed through the doors. Camera flashing. His face tight with disbelief, silver hair disheveled, expensive suit suddenly looking like costume. The clip that had started as janitor humbled flipped instantly. Billionaire exposed. CEO removed. Fraud uncovered. Inside, the doors closed. Pamela stood alone in the center of the lobby and trembled. Just slightly. Just enough to remind herself she was human. She pulled out her phone. Called her brother. I'm okay, she said quietly. Stay inside. I'll explain later. A figure appeared in the hallway. The accounts payable woman. Eyes red, hands shaking. Pamela walked over. You're protected, she said firmly. I promise. The woman nodded, tears spilling over. Evelyn's voice called from across the lobby. Ms. Ashton, the board is waiting. We need your first decision. Right now. Pamela walked into the boardroom, still wearing her janitor uniform. Navy polyester. White trim. Facilities badge clipped to her chest. She didn't change. Wouldn't change. The long table was filled with directors in tailored suits. They looked at her badge, then at her face, recalculating everything they thought they knew about power. Pamela sat at the head of the table. 3 priorities, she said. No preamble. Protect the employees who reported fraud. Freeze all suspicious vendor payments. And issue a public statement acknowledging the investigation without calling me a stunt. One director, older, white, expensive tie, shifted uncomfortably. Ms. Ashton, the optics of this are. The optics, Pamela interrupted quietly, are that you let a CEO commit fraud while workers watched in silence because they knew they'd be destroyed for speaking. Silence. She continued. I also want a full review of every contract tied to Leon Ashton's infrastructure system. He deserves credit. His family deserves restitution. And I want a foundation established in his name for worker innovation programs. Another director frowned. There are procedures. Evelyn cut in, voice firm. The procedures failed. Ms. Ashton holds the authority. We follow her lead. Pamela leaned forward. And one more thing. The culture that let Bob mock a human being in front of cameras, that ends today. Worker dignity standards. Complaint protections. Executive accountability triggers. I want policy drafted by end of week. A few board members exchanged glances. Uncomfortable, but nodding. Counsel's phone buzzed. He looked at the screen. His face went pale. Bob's lawyers just sent a letter. They're threatening a media war and filing for an injunction. Bob's not going down without a fight. Will Pamela's truth be enough to stop his lies? Stay tuned. This showdown is about to get explosive. The next morning, chaos. Headlines screamed across every platform. Billionaire CEO ousted by janitor. Hearthstone Capital in crisis. Bob Dylan faces fraud investigation. Bob's lawyers push their narrative hard. Hostile takeover, janitor fraud, corporate conspiracy. Employees buzzed in hallways. Investors flooded the switchboard demanding answers. Pamela stood in the boardroom, watching the news cycle through Evelyn's tablet. Her uniform was pressed now, badge still visible. They're calling you an imposter, Evelyn said quietly. Pamela's jaw tightened. Then let's show them the truth. At noon, the board convened publicly. Press outside. Cameras streaming live. The same lobby where Bob had laughed 24 hours ago now filled with reporters and microphones. Evelyn stepped to the podium first. Calm. Authoritative. Yesterday, Hearthstone Capital's board of directors confirmed the activation of a voting trust established by Leon Ashton, facilities engineer and shareholder. His daughter, Pamela Ashton, is the legal beneficiary and now holds decisive voting authority. Bob Dylan has been terminated for cause. We are cooperating fully with investigators. Reporters shouted questions. Evelyn gestured to Pamela. Pamela stepped forward. Navy uniform under bright lights. Badge catching camera flashes. She didn't read from notes. My father built systems that saved this company millions. They erased his name. Called him difficult when he asked for fairness. He died fighting for dignity. Her voice steadied. I'm not here for revenge. I'm here so no one else gets erased. No one here is invisible anymore. Silence. Then one reporter started clapping. Then another. Pamela walked back through the lobby. Same marble. Same chandelier. But this time, people stepped aside. Not because she was rich. Because she stood when power laughed. They laughed when she said she'd buy the company. Until the board confirmed she already did. What an incredible journey. Pamela proved that power isn't about money. It's about standing up when everyone expects you to stay down. If this story inspired you, hit that subscribe button for more stories of justice and resilience. Drop a comment telling me what moment hit you the hardest. And share this video with someone who needs to hear that they're not invisible. See you in the next one. Flex biceps.